I think everyone needs the fastest smartphone they can get because there are so many use cases that people are focusing on from an application perspective that were impossible to achieve before. But now all of a sudden, these advanced smartphones are, I'm not turning to my desktop machine or my laptop as much as I used to because I can frankly be 60% productive on a lot of the things I do with these smartphones. So if you can get the apps, the use cases that these things solve are just absolutely fantastic.
If you can get to the web, you can get to anything. I mean, not specifically apps, but the problem then speaks to more of a platform war where the developer has to split their attention. And ultimately, the unifying factor is access to the internet.
No, you're absolutely right. And if people could develop frameworks that ran smoothly within browser frameworks on phones, that people would do that. But unfortunately, it just doesn't happen that way today. And I've tried, like in Buddy TV Guide, we have web view elements of our app. They're the slowest ones. When we get complaints about our app, it's always about the web view ones. It's never about the native code that we wrote. The native code was harder to write. I couldn't port it to Android. I could run the web view on Android and iOS, but I got dinged half a star off my rating because I went the route you went. And so I dream of the day, in fact, spoke about it many years ago, that it'll happen, but it's not there today. We still need another, I don't see an order of magnitude of CPU.
I think Java will solve that.
Yeah,
oh, wait, no.
I think you're going to write once and write it again and again and again until it works.
But don't get me wrong, I'm also an iOS fan. I'm not traditionally, in one camp or the other. It's ultimately the best user experience. But the question then is, what's more important? Is it just raw access to the data? And we're not talking just in this part of the world, like any part of the world. Access to that information, I think, is far more empowering than not having it at all.
No, absolutely. So from a user perspective, you want everything at your fingertips. From a developer perspective, you want distribution. So you go with the App Store model. You can't distribute your website to the App Store.
I think I'll take a different approach. I mean, to me, what I use most of all is an ability to connect to the web. So whether it's my phone is a hotspot or whether I have a clear 4G plus, which works in 4G and 3G and whatnot. And I have a PC, I've got a Surface because they're awesome. I was stuck in Hurricane Sandy a few weeks ago in New York, and the internet was down.
No way.
Yeah, seriously.
The
internets were down. Yeah, the tubes were clogged. And the night before, I knew we were going to lose power likely. So I was in Lower East Side. And so I charged all my gadgets, my Surface, my PC, my phone. I was like completely charged and my hotspot. And the next morning, sure enough, everything was hosed. Like nothing was working. No power, no internet in the hotel. But my hotspot still worked because it was using basically a 4G backhaul, which wasn't affected by this. Now, eventually it was. It's a different story. And then I had to go kind of commando, and I was like Will Smith and I Am Legend, and the zombies came out. Long story short, I made it to Midtown, but without that access point that I had, all the things I did, like book a hotel in Midtown, find the car to take me to Midtown, were impossible. And so for me, the thing that I carry with me at all times, I have it right here with me right now, in fact, is my 4G/3G backup hotspot that lets me connect any device I have to the appropriate network, do something.
Access.
So I need that. That's what I need most of all.
But your interesting question, your thing about the power is something that we're working on is the alternative energy issue, right? It's not only just, New York became a third world country for a short time, right?
Lower East Side.
Right? It was very much no different than many third world countries. So how do you, one, provide the access, but also you think about around the world, other developing countries, how do you provide them the power so that they can do that? How do they access? It's interesting to see that cellular technology is what's enabling people to connect in third world countries. But one of their biggest weak links is how do they power it? The people going in a village and paying a few dollars to hook to a generator to power themselves, charge it, and then go back for a while, right? What can we do to do that?
Urine.
How do you I saw that recently.
No, they're urine. You can generate, they figured girls in Africa had figured out how to generate power from.
We're working at a company that's got a bunch of fuel cell technology. How do you convert different chemicals into hydrogen, which is a really interesting thing that can sort of change people's lives.
Yeah.
But it's access that changes the people's lives.
Right, so now you have power that enables them now to get access, right? I think that's the really important thing.
What's yours, Chris?
Honestly,
this camera.
No, I don't care. I've always been, in fact, the further I go on, the less I want to feel like I'm locked into one solution or another. I don't care who provides something that makes my life easier if it's being provided. So if it's an awesome app, cool. I don't care if it's running on Android, if it's a good experience, Windows Phone 8 or whatever they're calling it this week, or iOS. The platform doesn't matter. If I can access the internet, if I have access to something, I have access to information. Even though it may not be super optimized, if I have access to it.
Yeah, it's the use cases. You need a device that's powerful enough to do it.
That to me is like, I still think it's just that access to the intelligence that is going to continue to break down barriers because you can no longer wallow in ignorance. So if there was something that someone would have to have, whether we call it a smartphone, computer, whatever, it's just that access to information, and that having that information, having that knowledge changes things.
Well, I mean, we have talked a lot about phones or personal computers, smartphones that are with you. But I would have to say the Nike Fuel Band. I mean, it completely, for me alone, and it's a pedometer, right, that you wear on your wrist. It's not that advanced, but where we're going with health.
It's a personal cheerleader.
Yeah, I think where we're going with health and technology is really exciting.
I think it's another
and
great place. Yeah.
Having one of these completely changed my routine, and I actually all of a sudden I'm focused on, am I getting enough activity? How much activity am I getting? What does that look like over time if I graph my activity? And I could see going in and eventually the doctor has this already, right? Obviously, I mean, people are already doing this. I think we're just starting to do this. The doctor's got it. He knows what's going on. And
the
it's,
insurance company gets it. And
Yeah.
denies you,
And
we get back to the
back
whole
to privacy,
privacy.
security.
Yeah, there we go, full circle. But I could see it. I'm just excited for the next versions of this and how far this has to come.
Or you look at connected health devices, and we've done a few of those where now the doctor knows that you actually did use so much medication. This is when you used it. And then
I think that's the exciting part, is when they become connected. Because now health insurance companies are offering incentives to stay healthy, and when you can provably demonstrate that you are healthy or leading a healthy lifestyle, then they'll give you credits. They may reduce your insurance rates.
It's based on this kind of mathematical model, right?
Yeah,
It's based
exactly.
on the averages, on demographics that make actually little sense in reality.
we're making guesses now, but now
Precisely.
it's actually real data.
That's exactly right.
I mean, that in and of itself, a pedometer with a watch on it's pretty cool. But now you layer on all the things you can do with it, as you look forward, and you want to say, wow, what was going on with my health back then? And you've got years and years and years of this.
So we did a
online.
device for a company called Asthmapolis, and it's around asthma. So it's a little device that gets stuck on the top of an inhaler, and every time you use it, it knows where you are, how much you used, and it links to your cell phone, which is a GPS. So then they know geographically, was it tied to a season? So now they're getting all this data and going, really what's happening around with asthma and what these patients are experiencing, when and where, how that's experiencing, right?
But see, it's pervasive, and I think if there's a bigger trend in technology, it's the fact that you wear that on the wrist, you don't have to think about it. It's pervasive, not invasive.
Yeah.
The world can use it and not have to think about how to use it.
But this to me is a marvel of miniaturization, and we're going to see more of that. That'll have eventually, likely, once we figure out the battery problem, that'll have a camera in it, it could have a GPS in it, it could have all these different systems inside of it, heart rate. But it becomes more than simply a quantified self mechanism. It now becomes, as you said, you were last week in New York maybe, and you went somewhere, you went to a restaurant, and then a year from now, if someone asks you, where did you go to New York that was so great? And you're like, it's a place, I can't think of what it was. Well, luckily, your bracelet actually has a camera and a GPS and a historical thing, and it's easy to kind of sort through your life and see where you were and actually use that data to help.
When we have all this data around us, talk about big data, the amount of knowledge and data that we have is just gone. Usually, any story is gone if we have no way of tracking this. This very powerful thing that we have, storytelling, and this is how communication patterns emerge. Technology has the ability to take all those insipid pieces of life and helping make sense of them in a way that even our brain, even if it has that data, can't possibly begin to make those connections for us. And to me, it's when you surface the intelligence of when was an inhaler used, where was it used, what was the body's response. These types of things make us better humans. And I think if we do not keep that as the focal point, as much as a capitalist as I am, without bettering ourselves, I just think it's a moot point.
I want a chance to be able to capture my entire day, sit down and be able to share what I want to share, either publicly or privately. and I feel like I miss so many different things that I see or opportunities. But can you imagine with Google Glass, like you're gonna have to always be watching, thinking about what you're saying, because
You don't necessarily want everything you say to another person
are you
to
worried
discover,
about it?
well, right or wrong. I'm desperately worried.
You're really
about
worried
it.
about it.